All right, so uh, we've got some pretty serious political drama to unpack today
Yeah.
with this whole Chrystia Freeland resignation.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack there.
You sent me a ton of articles and discussions, and it feels like political thriller meets,
It's definitely a
this.
fascinating situation. I think the timing of her resignation just before the fall economic statement is incredibly rare,
Right.
and it points to some significant level of disagreement with the prime minister.
Yeah, everyone's probably thinking, why now?
Right.
What does this mean for me?
Exactly.
What does this mean for my wallet?
Yeah,
Um, and of course, what does this mean for Trudeau's leadership?
totally.
So let's dive right in.
Okay.
Let's start with the resignation letter itself,
Yeah.
because she really didn't hold back
No, she didn't.
at all.
The letter reveals that she was offered another cabinet position, and she refused it.
Okay.
She very pointedly criticizes these costly political gimmicks, as she calls them, that she believes are eroding the confidence of Canadians.
Okay, so when we talk about gimmicks, what are we talking about specifically?
Well, the $6 billion GST holiday is definitely a prime suspect.
Yeah, and if I'm remembering correctly, that was a pretty controversial move.
It was.
I think even some finance officials were not super happy about that.
Yeah, I think if we look back at the minutes from the Senate Finance Committee meeting,
Right.
there were economists there who were arguing that the GST holiday could actually contribute to inflation
Right.
and wouldn't provide significant relief to the people who need it the most.
So rather than being this helpful measure, it could end up hurting people.
Exactly. And with that added pressure of potential U.S. tariffs under the new administration,
Right.
Freeland really emphasizes the need for fiscal responsibility and avoiding these short-term solutions that have long-term consequences.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
What was the motivation there?
Some analysts suggest that it was a political maneuver to sort of boost popularity. With an election potentially on the horizon,
Right.
it raises questions about whether political strategy was prioritized over sound economic policy.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because this isn't Trudeau's first high-profile clash
Right.
with the finance minister.
Totally.
We can't forget Bill Morneau's resignation
Right.
back in 2020.
That's right. And Morneau has been publicly critical of Trudeau's leadership since then, suggesting a bit of a pattern of prioritizing short-term political gains over, expert advice and long-term strategy.
Right. So is there a sense that maybe Trudeau's too focused on the political game and not so much on
Yeah.
good governance?
There's definitely that perception among some commentators, and especially when you look at the similarities between Morneau's criticisms and Freeland's resignation letter,
Right.
it suggests a level of frustration
Yeah.
with the decision-making process within the government.
Now online, everyone's going crazy.
Oh, yeah.
People are speculating
Of course.
about everything.
Absolutely.
Some are talking about proroguing Parliament.
Yeah.
Some are saying maybe a snap election.
Right.
What are the most likely scenarios here?
Well, prorogation would allow Trudeau to reset the government's agenda and avoid an immediate confidence vote.
Okay.
Essentially, it's like hitting the pause button on Parliament.
I see.
However, it's a risky move, especially since Trudeau himself criticized the previous prime minister,
Right.
Stephen Harper, for doing the same thing. So it could be perceived as avoiding accountability.
And a snap election in the middle of winter
Yeah.
with all this trade war stuff,
Yeah.
that seems risky too.
It would certainly be a gamble, however, if Trudeau feels that his leadership is irreparably damaged and he's losing the support of his party.
Right.
It's possible he might see a snap election as his only option.
Okay, so for our listener out there, they're hearing all this
Right.
and they're thinking, what does this mean for me?
Yeah,
What does this mean for my finances?
for sure.
A new government can mean big changes to taxes, to spending,
Yeah.
and how Canada navigates this global economic landscape.
Absolutely. The fall economic statement, which is still scheduled to be released today,
Oh, wow.
will be a crucial event to watch,
Even without Freeland.
even without Freeland. It's a bold move for sure. Leaving the cabinet allows her to distance herself from Trudeau and his policies, but remaining an MP keeps her very much in the public eye. So it definitely fuels speculation about her future aspirations.
People are saying she's positioning herself for a leadership run.
Yeah.
Could Chrystia Freeland be Canada's next prime minister?
She's definitely a strong contender. I think Freeland is seen as competent and experienced,
Right.
and she enjoys quite a significant level of popularity among Canadians.
Yeah.
Some commentators believe she represents the Liberal Party's best chance in the next election.
Some are even saying she's the only one who can save the Liberal Party.
Hmm.
What do you think about that?
I think it's a little too early to make those kinds of definitive statements.
Okay.
However, her track record in negotiating those complex international trade deals
Right.
and her focus on fiscal responsibility do appeal to a broad range of voters.
She's originally from Alberta, though.
Yeah,
Could that be a hurdle for her within the Liberal Party?
it's definitely a factor to consider.
Yeah.
Alberta traditionally leans more conservative.
Right.
However, having a leader from Alberta could also be an asset for the Liberals,
Okay.
potentially expanding their appeal in Western Canada.
Yeah.
It'd be a significant shift in the political landscape.
It's a really interesting point.
Yeah, it adds another layer of intrigue to this whole thing.
Now, speaking of strategic moves,
Okay.
let's go back to that Senate Finance Committee meeting
All right.
about the GST holiday.
Yeah.
It kind of felt like everyone knew it was a bad idea except for Trudeau.
That seems to be the general sentiment, and it really underscores the criticism that he sometimes prioritizes these short-term political wins over, expert advice and sound policy.
It makes me think about how this applies to, all of us.
Right.
Outside of politics.
For sure.
We all face decisions
Yeah.
where we have to weigh different perspectives
Oh,
and make
that's-
tough choices.
Absolutely. Sometimes the best decisions are the hardest ones to make. The ones that require us to really challenge our own assumptions
Right.
and potentially go against our initial instincts.
Yeah. So back to the Canadian political landscape.
Okay.
The fall economic statement is still scheduled for today.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who delivers it,
Yeah.
especially in light of Freeland's absence.
And with Freeland's resignation, the content of the statement becomes even more crucial.
Absolutely.
What will the new finance minister, whoever that may be,
Right.
say about the deficit?
Well, it was already projected to be over $40 billion.
Right.
And now there's even more uncertainty about how the government will manage its finances.
Right. And we can't forget about the threat of U.S. tariffs.
Oh, yeah, that adds a whole other layer of complexity.
With the new administration,
Exactly.
this is a lot for any finance minister to handle.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Especially one who's stepping into the role
Right.
under these very challenging circumstances.
We'll have to see what approach they take in navigating all these economic headwinds.
It's a pivotal moment for Canada.
Yeah.
We're all watching to see what happens next.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are definitely in uncharted territory here.
We are.
This fall economic statement is going to be a must-watch event,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
even without Freeland.
Especially without Freeland. I think it's really going to set the tone for the next election.
So for our listeners who are,
Yeah.
trying to make sense of all this, what are the key things to watch for in this economic statement?
I think, first and foremost, how will the new finance minister address the deficit?
Okay.
Will they stick to Freeland's more fiscally conservative approach?
Right.
Or will we see a shift towards more of a spending-heavy strategy
Okay.
to try to win back voters?
Interesting. And what about those U.S. tariffs? How will the government, whether it's under Trudeau or someone new, respond to that threat?
Yeah, it's a crucial question.
Yeah.
Will they attempt to negotiate with the new U.S. administration?
Uh-huh.
Or will we see a more confrontational approach?
Right.
The direction they choose could have a significant impact on, Canadian businesses and consumers.
And, of course, the big question on everyone's mind, what about Freeland?
Yeah.
Is she going to just stay quiet on the backbenches?
Right.
Or will she use this as a platform to challenge Trudeau and maybe make a bid for leadership?
I mean, there's so many possibilities
Yeah.
and not a lot of answers right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what makes it so fascinating.
it's true.
Canadian politics is rarely this dramatic.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Freeland's resignation,
Yeah,
fallout for Trudeau,
for sure.
potential economic impacts.
It's like a real-life political thriller playing out in real time.
And with a new U.S. administration entering the picture.
Don't forget that. There's
Yeah.
a lot to unpack.
But here's something to think about. If Freeland was truly opposed to Trudeau's economic approach, why didn't she resign sooner? Is there more to this story?
Yeah, that's a million-dollar question.
Right.
Maybe she felt a sense of duty to stay on as finance minister during the pandemic and the
Yeah.
recovery. Maybe she held back out of party loyalty,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe she's playing a longer game,
Yeah.
positioning herself for a future leadership bid.
It's going to be fascinating to watch this all unfold.
Yeah, it is.
I have a feeling we'll be revisiting this story again soon.
Absolutely.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about.